Good evening, everyone. My name is Sunil Biswal, and today we are having 11th talk in a series of seminars we have been conducting under caption of Kalinga history. This is a small informal group of about few persons. But then we have a big team of participants who are equally interested to discuss about glorious heritage of Kalinga in all its form. And especially once upon a time, Kalinga was a big seafaring force of in ancient India, or say Bharatvarsh. And today we have a speaker who is an authority on the topic of maritime activity. So in a short while, my friend Sanjay would be giving a proper introduction of our speaker of the day. But then I would urge you to kindly switch off your camera and also put your microphone in mute mode so that we can listen to the speaker unobstructed. And I once again welcome you all the participants who have joined from different corners of the country, and probably a few of them also from outside India. So I welcome you all on behalf of our team of Kalinga History. So with this, I would urge my friend Sanjay Baral to kindly give an introduction of speaker Dr. Suresh Chandra Mishra, and then Dr. Suresh Chandra Mishra would start his deliberation for today's session. Sanjay.
Thank you, Sunil. Namaskar and welcome to all. Really, I am so happy and feel honored that friend Sunil has given me this opportunity of introducing. Actually, I am too small a man to introduce Professor Dr. Suresh Chandra Mishra, one of the top authorities of our country, especially in naval architecture and ocean engineering. Dr. Mishra has got an illustrious career. He is an IITian. From Kharagpur IIT, he got his degree in naval architecture. He got his doctorate, PhD degree from the famous University of Newcastle upon Tyne, United Kingdom. It is one of the highest ranking universities in the world, especially for intensive research. He retired as the Professor of Ocean Engineering and Naval Architecture in 2013. He was the first director of the Indian Maritime University, Visakhapatnam. From 2009 to 2013, he was there. He has been the chairman of the Naval Research Board from 2016 till 2021 and has been associated with various government and non-government committees. His interest in technology aspects of maritime archaeology has led to research in this area, and he has already authored a book in this regard. The book is Glorious Water Transport Heritage of Kalinga, Ancient to Recent Times. I am happy that I was present at the launching ceremony of the book on 22nd August this year. One thing I would like to mention here that we have already come across many books on the maritime history of Odisha, but those were mainly from researchers from the faculty of history. But for the first time, we will know maritime history from a top technocrat of naval architecture and ocean engineering. So Professor Mishra's opinions carry greater weightage. Now let us listen to him. I request Professor Mishra to deliver his talk.
Thank
Professor
you,
Mishra.
Thank you, Sanjay Babu, speaking so highly of me. Before I start my talk, I must thank Mr. Sunil Biswal of Kalinga Itihas for giving me this opportunity to speak to people with so much of background and prominence. I must also say that I am a naval architect, I'm an engineer, and that too a teacher. I spent my time in teaching an engineering subject and haven't had an opportunity to look at history or archaeology. Only after retirement from active service for the last 4-5 years, I have been interested in this subject. And the reason for that, one can appreciate. See, I am from Puri. I don't know if any of you is from Puri. any of the participants here. I don't know, but some people may be from a coastal area. In Puri, on the Kartik Purnima day, as children, we used to go with our parents with a banana boat and float it in the sea and sing this Aka Mabai song, which is very famous in Odisha. And from that time, I used to feel very proud that I belong to a society which had a very rich maritime heritage. Fortunately, I got into a profession which related to maritime activities. But over the course of my career, I didn't find much writing in this area, popular writing. I wouldn't venture to say research writing because I'm sure that there has been sufficient amount of writing in research in archaeology regarding Kalinga Empire and Kalinga water transport, Kalinga trade. But for popular reading, I didn't find much material. So that was one reason why I thought I should look at this and, if possible, write a popular book. The second thing that interested me is you see from amongst the coastal states of India, Odisha is one which has a coastline of about 480 kilometers. If you look at the entire coastline, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Kerala, Goa, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, there is something or other of oceanic activities going on. It's only the state of Odisha which at present doesn't have any oceanic activity, and river transport is at a very low stage. This surprised me. I thought that if this state had such a big history, such a glorious history, then why don't we have anything indicating our glorious pastime? This also led me to look at this subject and do something about it, at least write about it. And I have tried to compress my book into this 1 hour presentation. I'll just be skipping over certain areas, otherwise time will not be sufficient. So please excuse me if there is something which is not understandable, and we can attack that in question and answer session. So first, the name itself, water transport. How do I move?
Sir, we are already seeing your presentation.
Oh, I am not seeing it. If I cannot see it, how do I present it? Should it not be progressing if I press a button?
नमस्कार सर आपणकर ब्राउजर लिंक टा आउथरे क्लिक करंदु तळे जो आइकन थिबो गूगल क्रोम की सफारी आपण जोथरे भी एटा ड्राइव टा रखिथिबे आज्ञा
I think something has come. Okay. All right. Can you see my screen? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are able to see your screen.
Okay. I think I just skipped 1 or 2 slides. I am talking about glorious water transport of Kalinga, heritage of Kalinga. What does water transport mean? Does it mean only the ocean transport? I have addressed this issue for rivers, inland transportation in water, as well as oceanic transport. I have looked at the transport system in rivers of Odisha, as well as oceans. And the river and ocean connect is through ports. So the rivers were used to bring trading items from the hinterland of the state to the littoral areas in which there was a port, and the port used to be, ships used to trade these items from port to distant lands. So, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, that is the first thing I have done. I have talked about river transport as well as oceanic transport, and by the way, about ports. When we talk of heritage, we talk of a large span of time, from very ancient times to modern times. Now, it is very difficult to chronologically describe how the trade developed. Normally, historians will like to divide the entire time span into a number of time zones, depending on particular kingdoms or particular developments. In this case, without going into much intricacies of history, I have tried to divide the area into three time zones. One I have called the ancient time zone, that is starting from before about 5,000 years from today till about 700 AD, Jajati Kesari's time. And from there to Mukundadev or Prataprudradev's time, I have told as medieval period. And then beyond that, I have told as a modern period. So this is how I have divided the time zone. In discussing the heritage, I also feel unless we look at all the three zones, it's difficult to comprehend the total trading sequence of Kalinga Sadhavas. A word that we have heard, all of us have heard very much, Sadhavas. Who are the Sadhavas? Were they the mariners? Today, if you look at the marine trading, then we have a group of people who run ships. They are called mariners. Then we have the traders who sit in shore. They don't go in ships, who receive the items and trade with them on a commercial basis. But in ancient times, who were the Sadhavas? Were they the mariners as of today, that is, those who operated the ships? Or were they the traders who bought and sold items? Were the mariners also traders? Perhaps without any authentic information on this issue, perhaps Sadhavas mean people who went in ships in any capacity, that is traders, operators, sail operators, boat operators, and we had even astrologers. So if you look at all these people, and if you combine all these people into a group called Sadhavas, today their descendants would perhaps be called by surnames Majhi, Mangaraj, Boital, Mahanayak, or Purohit. I'm not sure, but this is what I have understood, that Sadhavas means those who handle the entire maritime trade and river trade. So my point of bringing this out is that in maritime trade, all castes worked together as one unit, giving their best to the maritime trade. Since we are also talking about rivers, about river transport, I would like to just take 2 minutes talking about Odisha rivers. One of the main river bodies of Odisha is the Chilika Lagoon. Chilika Lagoon is connected to the sea by a small mouth, and it is reasonably calm compared to the sea outside. This lagoon is maybe 6,000–7,000 years old. The present lagoon with a small mouth has been taken from a gulf maybe about 2,000 years back. this plays a major role in the port development around the coastal belt of Odisha. Then if you look at the rivers, you can divide them into three distinct divisions. The northern tract, consisting of Suvarnarekha and Burabalang and Jambeli River. Then we have the central tract rivers, which are the Mahanadi, Brahmani, Baitarani Delta. And then we have the southern tract rivers, Rusikulya, Bahura, and Bansadhara. And there are many other rivers, but basically these are the main rivers around which we will be looking at. Then there are a few standalone rivers. Largest river delta is the Mahanadi Delta, which has kept shifting over the years from north central area to south southern area. This was surprising to me. The delta formed in the north central area. There are a lot of rivers at that time, distributaries and tributaries of Mahanadi. But Mahanadi evolved over a period of time, and geologists have said that Mahanadi evolved over 4 stages. Evolved means some of the streams that existed with Mahanadi River dried up, new streams were created. Drying up was because of siltation, because of ridge formation or whatever. Today we have the Katjodi Kuakai river system with Daya and Bhargavi rivers draining into Chilka Lake. What it means is that about 60% of the water of Chilka comes from Mahanadi waters. This was quite revealing to me when I read it. We'll look at this perhaps a little later also. I have taken this diagram from a book by Professor Mahalik of Utkal University, who has done extensive study on Mahanadi Delta system. What I want to say here is look at the firm lines which show the various branches of the Mahanadi River, and look at the dotted lines which are the rivers which were in the past, which have been silted and perhaps completely taken away. One of the rivers which we'll look at a little later is the Prachi River. Can you see it? Is it possible to identify the river?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay. So we'll look at this Prachi River even again later. This river is a broad view. This diagram is a broad view of the firm rivers existing now and some of the paleo rivers. Paleo means rivers that have gone underground, that has dried up, but they can be detected by some sonar sounding or some satellite imagery. So this brings us to the point that did we have a lot of rivers near Konark Temple? Can we look at we'll look at the Konark Temple rivers a little later. Right now, let's look at the trade in Puranic times, say in ancient times. First, the Puranic era, we just go over it. Everybody knows about this. 3,000 to 4,000 years back, we had the Indus Valley civilization, where we have seen diagrams of multi-oared ships dated to 2800 BC. Remains of a dry dock has been located at Lothal in Gujarat. Tamil literature mentions trading with Southeast Asia before 3,000 years, and Pumpuhar was a major port at that time in early Chola period, that is 4th century BC. Similar literature exists indicating trading to far-off countries in Kerala, Gujarat, and Maharashtra. I could not find any literature of that time, that is about 3,000 years back, about the Kalinga trading. But Since the trading across the Indian coast was going on, Kalinga couldn't have been left behind. Kalinga trading must have started around the same time, must be going on around the same time. And one could say that Kalinga trading started existed about 3,000, 4,000 years back from today. This is the Lothal dry dock, brick structure of dry dock or Lothal, which has been reproduced from a book I was reading on archaeology. What is Kalinga? How do we define Kalinga region? Kalinga region, as we have defined, as I have defined in my book, is from Ganga to Godavari. Ganga means it's not actually the Ganges, it's the Rupnarayan river, a tributary, a distributary of Ganges. Is it a distributary? Yes, it's a distributary of Ganges. Near the Rupnarayan river mouth, there existed a port called Tamluk, now called Tamluk. Tamluk was a part of the Kalinga Empire. And this Kalinga extended in the south up to Godavari basin, that is up to Visakhapatnam and Kakinada. So when we say Kalinga, we are actually including northern Bengal of today, the entire Odisha coast, and the southwestern coast of West Bengal, Odisha coast, and northeastern coast of Andhra Pradesh. Before Ashoka's time, various regions were Udra or Odra, Utkal and Kalinga and Koshal. Odra or Udra is supposed to have been inhabited by the Aryans or North Indians. Utkal was perhaps the middle region, the mountainous region or tribals. Kalinga was the southern regions of Dravidian origin. Koshal was the central region to the west of the kingdom. The regions were not clearly demarcated nor described. Kings went to war, annexed it on winning, and so the kingdom increased. And the reverse took place if the kings lost. Thus, the boundaries kept shifting. If we look at this diagram of Odisha today, this is how I have marked the regions broadly. Uttar Desa was on the north side, on the west side was Koshala, central side was Utkal, and southern side was Kalinga, and later on there are two areas, Kangoda and Kalinga. And in the 7th, 8th century, perhaps all these regions were united to something called Three Kalinga. Kalinga war was fought by Ashoka on the banks of the river Daya near Bhubaneswar in the 3rd century BC. Kalinga lost and came under Magad Empire. Ashoka changed from Chandrasok to Dharmashok and embraced Buddhism. And he took a lot of effort in spreading Buddhism. He sent Buddhist monks, his son Mahindra and daughter Sangamitra from Pataliputra to the seaport of Tamluk, presently Tamluk, and from there to Sri Lanka by sea to spread Buddhism there. This is the first indication of sea transport from Tamluk to Sri Lanka by sea. The capital of Kalinga was Dantapura, presently in North Andhra Pradesh, and had good connectivity with Tamluk both by land and sea, and with Sri Lanka, Burma, and Far East, also by sea. After Ashoka, Kalinga became independent again. Harabala of Chetty or Chaitra dynasty, also known as Mahameghavana, ascended the Kalinga throne in 177 BC. He promulgated Jainism as state religion, and this era was called the golden era of the Kalinga kingdom. He annexed Magadha and also defeated the Tamil dynasty kingdom in the south. the power or glory could not have been achieved without maritime trade and naval power. Therefore, I infer that at Karbala's time also there was active maritime trade, and maritime trade continued subsequently. Then we look at the world history. Roman general, what is this? No, sorry. I don't know how to go back on this. And this one.
Ma'am, are you able to see any?
There is a part of the screen coming on this share. I do not know how to remove it. Oh, yeah.
We can see it as full screen, sir. Please go ahead. Maybe ancient period after Karavala we are watching.
Okay. Naturalist and historian Roman General Pliny was a naval commander, wrote a book, Encyclopedic Naturalis Historica or Natural History, during the period 23 to 79 AD. The Greek mathematician Claudius Ptolemy, astrologer, geographer, astronomer of Alexandria, then a province of Roman Empire during 100 to 170 CE, wrote a book also on his subjects. From historical data recorded by these two great ancient writers, it would be a tribe called Kalinga lived near the sea. And this is first, we all believe that this refers to the Kalinga tribe, which lived on the sea on the eastern coast of India. Port towns of Dantagula or Dantaguda, approximately 625 miles south of Tamilipti, has been mentioned in Mahabharata, and Kalingapatnam and Polura were natural ports at that time, as written by these two gentlemen. Vessels used to leave littorals from these ports and enter into the high seas, going up to Malaysian Peninsula. There are many ports on the seafront and maritime trade flourished. During this period, the dynasties from South India, Satavahana and later Ikshvaku ruled Kalinga and Utkal region. Tosali was the capital, that is present Dhauli, and that is how it went on, but sea trade continued. What happened? Around 4th century, okay, King Brahmadatta of Kalinga got a present of the canine tooth relic of Buddha from Thera Kema, a disciple of Buddha, and he deposited it in a magnificent stupa in his capital, Dantapura. Around 4th century CE, King Guaseva sent this tooth relic to Anuradhapura in Sri Lanka with his daughter Hemlata and son-in-law Dantakumara by sea for safekeeping to protect it from invasion. This is an indication that from Kalinga ports to Sri Lanka, there was a regular trade, and this was utilized by King Guaseva to transfer the Buddhist tooth relic to Sri Lanka, which is being worshipped in Sri Lanka today in Kandy. A very interesting story I read in net, and I thought I'll also write it here. A Brahmin seller Kaundinya from Mahendragiri region of the Gajapati district of Kalinga sailed the seas and was attacked by pirates by the local princess Soma. Soma fell in love with Kaundinya and they got married and established the Funan dynastic rule in Kamboja. Kamboja is today's Kampuchea. This was in 1st century AD. And this Funan kingdom lasted till 6th century. He introduced worship of Lord Shiva and Hindu culture into Ambuja, and perhaps started the construction of the famous Angkor Wat temple. Subsequently, though, it became a Buddhist temple and it's a World Heritage Site now. I think I should not go over this because all historians are sitting here and I don't know how much it is helpful. I only like to say is that 350 to 600 CE, the Saratbhava dynasty ruled in Odisha, who were defeated later by the southern kings of the Ganga dynasty. King Harshavardhan subsequently defeated Kalinga, and the Saratbhava dynasty kings were defeated and removed. Perhaps, again it's a perhaps, is that these people moved to Suvarnadvipa, presently Malaysian region, Maladvipa, to the Maladvipa, the present Malaysia, and subsequently to Indonesia, to establish the overseas kingdoms there. Okay, so somehow till now we see that Kalinga kings had somehow encouraged active maritime trade to Sri Lanka and to South Asia, to Malaysia, to Indonesia, and thereafter to China. The reign of Chandragupta II, one of the major poets of Chandragupta II regime, as we all know, was Kalidasa. In his Raghuvansa, he mentions Kalinga king Hemaganda was a great king, and he has addressed him as Kalinga Natha and Mahodadipati. So he also mentions that king had his palace on the seafront, which was naturally protected by the sea on one side. We are talking of literature now. Around the same time, Paiyan visited India from China. He went to Lumbini, then Pataliputra, then Tamlipti, from where he sailed to Sri Lanka, where he stayed for 2 years. Then from Sri Lanka, he wanted to go to China. He went through the Malacca Strait, but unfortunately, the ship got into a storm, and he had to stay in Java for 6 months. And then he went to China. It seems that he sailed in a ship which carried 200 passengers, and it had a small boat tied to the big ship on its way. This is very surprising that people carried their own boats at that time. We're talking about 400 AD, to go to places where draft was not sufficient, or depth of water in the channel or port was not sufficient for a big ship to land, and you could take your items in a small boat and go to the port and do trading there. Around in 7th century, Wen Sang traveled to India. He traveled to Uttradesa with capital at present location of Jajpur, then went to a port called Port Chelitalo. We really don't know where it is. Kongoda with capital at the port of Palur on the banks of Rusikulla. He has mentioned the existence of a number of seaports such as Kalingapatnam, Ganjam, Chelitalo, etc. Here, traders barter items against cowries and pearls. So, we see that there was a continuous trade in this regime in Kalinga, and also perhaps this was the period when Kalinga people went and established kingdoms in South Asia. Second half of the 8th century, there was an exchange of ambassadors between King of Kalinga and King of China. As a result of this, many Chinese students traveled to Odisha to study Buddhism. And we have these excavations at Udayagiri, Ratnagiri, Lalitgiri, and Pushpagiri, which stand testimony to this. Thus, there is ample evidence that there was trade across seas from Kalinga region to Sri Lanka, Suvarnabhumi, Suvarnadvipa, and China on the eastern side. Export items from Orissa were elephant. Elephants were exported in large numbers from Orissa. It's surprising. Ivory, gems such as diamond and other items, silver filigree works, clothes, and imports were mainly pottery works from China. Research is required to clearly establish whether there was direct trade with Romans or East Africa at the beginning of Common Era or before. We do not know this. Well, is this diagram visible?
Yes, sir, visible.
Okay. Now, if you see this from Kalinga coast, I have drawn the lines of trade going towards northeast. It goes to the Bangladesh, Myanmar, and to the Malacca Strait. Can you see the Malacca Strait between Indonesia and Malaysia? That strait is called Malacca Strait. Cursor is not moving. Can you locate it? The place between Malaysia, where Malaysia is written, that kingdom,
Right,
south of is
right, sir.
Indonesia,
Right, sir.
and in between is the Malacca Strait. And the ships used to go from the eastern side through the Malacca Strait to the Indonesian islands. On the south side was Bali, or they could go via Ceylon and from Sri Lanka to the east to Bali on the southern side of Indonesian island. Then one could also go from the Malacca Strait, instead of going towards south, one could go towards north and to the southern China coast. While going to the southern China coast, one could also go to the other eastern countries, such as Champa, that is Vietnam, and Cambodia, that is Cambodia. So this was the normal trade route. You can see there are a lot of variations. It's not a single route. It's from Sri Lanka, you could go, from eastern side you could go, or you could go directly from Kalinga to the middle line to Bali Island. And one could also go completely circumvent the Bali Island and go to China. On the eastern side, one could go to Roman or East African islands, but we don't have any proof of that. So the ports that existed are Tamralipti or Tamluk at the present moment, which is under the port is underground. We don't have much reference of much evidence of port activities from there, except some potteries and shirts. Then we have Chelitalo, as I have mentioned, Manikpatna on the northern bank of Chilka, Palura or Palur, southern tip of Chilka, Ganjam, Dantapura, and Kalingapatnam. If you look at these ports, these are the ports I have written here. There are some other ports which are not listed in the table, that is Batikonda and Pithunda, and there could have been other ports like Salihuddam. You see, this is the Bansadhara River. Can you see the Bansadhara River in the map and the Rusikulla River? Most of the ports were on the ports of these or on the Chilka.
Right.
The points to note in the ancient trade pattern is that there is no mechanical means of propulsion or steering. They used oars and sails utilizing wind power and ocean currents. Navigated using the sun, moon, and pole star. Sailors moved near the coast and moved to deep ocean only when necessary. Speed of the vessel was normally between 10 to 11 kilometers per hour, or about 6 knots. It took 1 week from Tamilip to Palur, to southeast to Sri Lankan ports, or to northeastern Chittagong, or southeast to western Myanmar. From Java to China, the sailing would take about a month. To go to the western side, vessel would have to move west after encircling Sri Lanka and would have taken more than a month to reach Arabia. That is how they moved. If you look at this pattern of wind and currents, the north in November, that is in the winter session, is the northwestern monsoon, which goes towards along the Indian coast from north to south. And this is the time when the sailors started their journey. That is Kartik, Margasir, Ashwin, Kartik and Margasir. This taking advantage of this thing. And the current also, you can see the current is down south this way. And the return was before the monsoon started, because monsoon would have been very dangerous. So they would start just at the beginning of the monsoon season, there is Baisakh. So that is how the term Akama Bai was created. That is October, November, December, you start your journey. That is Kartik, Ashwin, Kartik and Margasir. And you go to either western side or eastern side. But you must return before the monsoon hits the landmass. That is at the beginning of southeastern monsoon. That is Baisakh. That is how the term Akama Bai had come, I think. Cultural mix. If you look at the culture that developed due to maritime trade, we had a number of deities: goddess Ambika, god Bhairava, goddess Basuli, Tara, Chamunda, Mangala, and Mahisamardini. And festivals, there are plenty of festivals around the boating people. Taupoi, very well-known story is there, no need to repeat. Kalijai, Nuakhai, Kartik Purnima. A diapi figure is shown of Kartik Purnima in Sundargarh district. What I want to say is that the connectivity between Western India and the coastal region was directly through rivers, and it was very, very prominent. That is how today Kartik Purnima is celebrated all across the state, and this picture is taken for a Kartik Purnima festival in the Sundargarh district. Well, I think I'll just mention this one item here in this slide, that Benudhar Patra has listed the likeness of food habits and festivals, art and sculpture and weaving between the Balinese people and Odia people. So Bali has remained Hindu in a primarily Muslim country of Indonesia. Our trade with South Asia was very prominent. There was mixing of people, mixing of culture, mixing of kingdoms. So particularly Bali perhaps was ruled by the Odia kings for a long time, and there has been a lot of mixing. There is a temple in Bali in Dance Park called the Jagatnatha temple. I have visited this temple myself. There are no deities here. The doors are open like all temple doors are open in South India, South Asia. But there are 3 platforms on which offerings are made every day. And these 3 platforms represent gods Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, or Ishvara as they call it. Brahma, Vishnu and Ishvara. Surely the name Jagatnatha has been taken from the word Jagannath. Even there are people who asked, how do you go to Puri and how do you see Jagannath temple? So I think there's a connectivity which has been there since long time. So to note the points of ancient history, ports were in estuaries or on river mouths. All ports reported were in Kalinga region. Kalinga region, particularly in the south, except one port in the north called Tamralip. The middle of Odisha had no ports. North of Chilka till Tamralip, there is no record of any ports. That is, mouths of Mahanadi, Brahmani, Baitarani, Budhabalam, Subarnarekha did not have any ports in them. Maritime trade from the coast of Kalinga meant prosperity, And this region is today inhabited mostly by Adivasis. That's what, if you remember, we said that Kalinga region was perhaps inhabited by Adivasis. It is most surprising that such a developed region at that time, that is about the turn of the Christian era, today is the most underdeveloped part of this country. I don't know how this has happened, but this is how it is. At one time, about 2000 years back, it was the most prosperous place. Today, it is the most backward place. Medieval period. The two things that are most prominent in the medieval period is the two major temples, Sun Temple Konark and Jagannath Temple at Puri, built in 12th and 13th, 12th and 13th. The two temples were built 100 years apart, 12th and 13th century. What I want to bring here is that each temple must have required stones of the order of 120,000 tons of stone, taking a minimum of 25% wastage. This is 150,000 tons to each temple. Where are the stones? As we know, neither Konark nor Puri house the stones. They must have come from somewhere at least 50 to 100 kilometers away. So, how did they come? Was there roads? Were there hills on the seaside that they could be brought by sea? The answer to all this is no. The only plausible way of transportation of such huge amount of stones was by rivers. So this brings to focus the importance of river transport and how advanced it was, that it could carry so much stones to build the temples. One more item I want to mention. In 1800s, 19th century, the British decided to protect the Konark temple because the Konark temple was called the Black Pagoda, or it was utilized for navigational purposes along the sea. It was a landmark point and therefore it had to be protected. Same was the case with Puri temple. Now the Puri temple at that time, if you recall, was painted with limestone and was completely white. I have shown the original temple before the lime paste was removed, and this was called the White Pagoda. And after the lime paste, this is how it looks on the right bottom figure. So the Konark temple and Puri temple had a requirement of being utilized for navigation purposes as landmarks. Let's understand that these temples were utilized for that purpose apart from any religious purpose. So I have shown these diagrams primarily because of telling that in temple Puri, if you have heard about Puri, there is the main road, the grand road of Puri is called the Saradha Valley. Saradha Valley, why is it called? Because there was a queen named Saradha who decided that a river passing through the main road of Puri must be closed. Okay, going back a little bit, previous to at the time of Saradha Queen, or even before that, there was a small rivulet around this place. This place is pretty complicated. If you see the river map of Puri town here, it's pretty complicated. But there is a small river emanating from Musanoi and coming up to Puri temple called the Malini River, which passed through the Baradanda area of Puri town now and met the sea at the so-called Banki Muhana, where the Chakratirtha shrine is existing today. Now this river was a water body, so the cars could not go across the river. There are 6 cars made, 3 on this side, 3 on that side, and the gods were transported across the river. It's a very cumbersome process. So the queen ordered that the river must be closed, and therefore we have now 3 cars, not 6, and the road is completely land-based. Why I'm bringing this point is this Malini River was a connection between Musanoi and sea, and the Musanoi was connected to the Bhargavi River. So if you look at this river connectivity, perhaps from somewhere 100 kilometers, even for Puri temple, the stones came across the river. We talked about 150,000 tons stones. How did they come? There is no stone quarry near Puri town. So it must have come by this method, which is not mentioned by anybody. Same with Konark temple. We have a river called Kadua River now. There has been a study done by some IIT professors of the geology department by satellite imagery, and they have identified a river mass like this under the sea. The Konark temple is here. So they have assumed perhaps there is a water mass here connecting the sea to the temple, and this water mass was utilized by the riverine system to bring stones to here. If you read Krupasindhu Mishra's Konarka, it says there is a water mass here called Padmatola Ganda. Padmatola Ganda was perhaps here. We don't have a direct evidence of this, it's only estimated. Because Konark temple is not near the sea, it's 3 kilometers away. Stones couldn't have been carried from here to there. So perhaps there is a riverine connectivity bringing the stones to Padmatola Ganda, which was around the Konark temple at that time, which has been silted by now. Now this diagram, I think Dr. Surendra Mishra has given a talk to this August gathering sometime back. Biswal Babu, am I correct?
Right, sir.
So he must have explained this river connectivity, but I'll go over it again. The main temple from main hills from where the stones came were the Kirandimala temples, and this came through this Baharadanda canal, Salia river, Daya river, went up to here, then came through the Solo river, and then to Konark temple here. Can you see this?
Yes.
Is this visible?
Yes, sir. We could trace.
My cursor is visible?
Yeah. Actually, Surendra Mishra had a different topic on that day.
Oh, we didn't mention this.
It was about Odia scholars and their.
Okay. I have taken this diagram from Karuna Sagar's book and the river path from Surendra Mishra's articles. That's why I mentioned his name. And if you see the marbles which are utilized in the temple came from here, like this. Can you see this? It came through this Chitrapala river. Now, Chitrapala river, if you recall the Mahanadi stretch we showed, there is no Chitrapala river. Perhaps it is one of those dotted lines which joined the Brahmani to Mahanadi at that time, and it was called the Chitrapala river, which doesn't exist today. Chitrapala river, then it came to, Devi river, then Solo river, then Chandrabhaga, then to Konark. This is the route it took. This is how it came. Now, this is, Surendra Babu has said this in his newspaper clippings. I have taken the data from there, this diagram from Karnasagar's book, and there is a river connectivity. I have not just guessed it. I have found out a river connectivity which was perhaps missing near Konark and Puri, and the history says that Puri was already connected to a river system from the Bhargavi River, and Konark was connected to the Chandrabhaga River, perhaps on a lake called Padmatulaganda. So this is how the river transport was. It transported 150,000 tons of stone to Puri temple and another 150,000 tons of Konark temple just after 100 years. So you can imagine how robust was the riverine transport system of the state. And we just don't talk about it. It's very strange. What happened? Why it is not moving now? Am I going back or what?
You're going back, sir.
Yeah, okay. So to do this to stone transfer, there are the steps taken: identifying the hills, employment of contractors, employment of stone workers, cutting and polishing of stones at site, carriage to the water body and loading onto the boat, employment of boat crew and boat operation. This is a major activity. Shifting of boats to larger or smaller boat as the river. You see, all the rivers are meandering. They go, sometimes they're very wide, sometimes very narrow, sometimes they go through large curves. So all boats cannot go through. So you have to transfer the load from one boat to another boat. So that is what is written here. Then employment, shifting of boat from boat to larger boat. Finally, moving stones to the site. Set of artisans for boat construction. This is another set of artisans, boat construction and repair. Financial arrangements. How are the people to be paid? All these management activities were also conducted. Active support of riverside inhabitants was inevitable. Without that, this much of stone could not have been transported. We now talked about Konark and this river. We will now talk a little bit about Prachi civilization, which flourished in the medieval period. That is the crowning part of the medieval period, the Prachi civilization. River Prachi, I have shown it in the diagram before. River Prachi was perhaps the main distributary of Mahanadi river system. And the river had a good flow, and also deep. Carbon 14 dating shows Prachi originating from Pratapnagari in Cuttack district. And it originated about 6,000 years back. Now Prachi has dried up. Almost dried up. Remains only as a small stream near Kakapur, discharging sea to the Astarang at Keutadanga. Devi, Kusabhadra, Daya and Bhargavi rivers have originated only 700 years ago. Now, Prachi is the third generation of Mahanadi Delta, and Devi, Kusabhadra and Bhargavi are the fourth generation Mahanadi. Kadua River is still more recent origin. Its origin is 750 to 50 years ago. This diagram shows this small rivulet which meets the sea at Keutadanga near Kakapur. This is the only river remaining now. Otherwise, Prachi doesn't exist. An advanced civilization flourished on the banks of this river, particularly in the 7th to 16th century AD. Large number of temples were built on the banks representing the Vaishnavite and Shakta cults of Hindu faith. Buddhist and Jain monuments were also erected, and in later period there are also Islamic mosques. The famous Ma Mangala temple stands on its banks near Kakapur. A number of monuments including brickworks, stoneworks, mosques, stepped wells, tirthas, ghats, forts and sand dunes exist on its bank. Kenduli Sasan on its bank has been identified as the birthplace of famous poet Jayadev, Sanskrit poet, and his composition Gita Govinda. This village has been a center of Hindu literature during the 10th and 11th century, and now it's a pilgrimage site. Kapila Samhita, written in Sanskrit in century C, Prachi Mahatmya, written in Sanskrit in 18th century, also mentions profusely about Prachi civilization, and Odia Mahabharata Saradas mentions extensively of Prachi. And the trading at that time mouth of Prachi was a major port, and a village near Junai was famous for salt trade. Even Chandra river was famous for salt trade. In a village, Jharilo in Govindapur district, a banyan tree is named as Boitabandha. On Nilamadhav Road, dunes bear names indicating harbors, Kuddapatna and Gopalpuda. Sadhavas played in a temple of God Ramachandra near village Chaurasi, etc., etc. I think I'll just go over this because I have something more to tell you. Would that be allowed? Mr. Vishwal, can I just skip over this?
Oh, sure, sir, sure.
I think most of this is known, but however, Astarang, Prachi, even Puri, Konark were major ports at that time.
You're right.
Dantapura, Pithunda, or the southern ports now stopped to exist. Kalingapatnam remained a port trading in rice up to 8th century CE. Pallur and Manigapatnam remained active ports. Puri and Konark were also trading ports in this period. Subsequently, Portuguese traders and later French and British traders used existing ports on Odisha coast and set up new ports to do their trading. On the left bank of Kusavadra River, there was a port called Kalkatapatnam. This came up in this medieval period, which was a major port at that time, and there was a palace of Langula Narasimhadev at that port, the remnants of which have been located. So you see in the previous slide of ports, we saw most of the ports in this area. And in this medieval period, we now see ports in this area. But please note, we still haven't gone up to Mahanadi. Mahanadi to up north, we still don't have ports. Our ports are all limited to the middle of Odisha. So summarizing this medieval period, southern ports vanished, ports in central Odisha, Pune, Konark, Prachi, Astarang, Kalkatapatnam came up. Trade routes remained same as before. Trading of elephants and diamonds slowly vanished. Trading was done with woodworks, ironworks, brassworks, gold and filigree works, weaving of clothes. Salt was a major trader. Salt started becoming a traded item in medieval period. Internal trade continued with food grains, vegetables, oil, fruits, etc. Internal oceanic trade continued and flourished in spite of wars and changes of size of kingdoms. This is the medieval period in short. Modern period, I think I'll just go over this very quickly. We had a number of ports on the Mahanadi, Brahmani and Baitarani river mouths, and also Subarnarekha and Budhabalan mouths. A major shipbuilding center started operating at Cuttack, and then it moved to Balasore, Cuttack remaining a main ship repair center. One item I must recall, lifestyle of coastal people in the entire northern coast changed and was built around ships and ocean trading. See, the modern period was mainly, if I just sum it up slowly, the modern period was a period when the western Odisha was attacked frequently. Western and northern Odisha was frequently attacked by Marathas and Mughals. The coastal Odisha was attacked by the foreign traders, that is Portuguese traders initially, and slowly British, French and Dutch traders. So the trading, so the people were harassed by a lot of war going on between various groups of people. In this era also, the kings, Prataprudra and Mukundadev, slowly lost their control over the entire Odisha region. And the small groups of villages came under what is now known as Jamindaris. And Jamindaris, you know, was not a good thing. People took loans, and this loan they remained completely indebted to the Jamindars for the remaining period. And we had these problems. So based on this, slowly the trade suffered and trade crumpled. Along with this, what happened is the British, once the Dutch and Portuguese are removed from the northern Odisha and southern Bengal coast, the British slowly moved their entire factories to Calcutta. Factories, production centers, trading centers, everything moved to Calcutta. They didn't want to deal with people in Balasore or port of Balasore anymore. Why? Mainly because there was an excessive taxation in the Orissa coast, and also the local produce was not purchased by the British. The people suffered economically, and slowly, therefore, the shipbuilding also suffered and died by more or less beginning of 20th century. So if you look at the ports here, at the mouth of Subarnarekha, we had the Pipili port, and a little inside we had the Subarnarekha port. On the Budhabalanga mouth, we had Chandipur, and a little inshore was the Balasore. Balasore was a major port for a long time, till the British decided to close it down. Then we had this Gamai river, at the mouth of which we had Churamani. And then we had the Dhamra river, which is a branch of Mahanadi and Brahmani mixing and turning into the sea. We had the Chandwali river port and Dhamra port. And down below we had Harishpur, and along the Mahanadi river mouth, little inside we had two ports, Harishpur and Hariyarpur. And down below we had Hutikola and another river draining, Mahanadi river draining into the sea, we had Paradip. So these were the northern ports which came up in the modern era, and these middle ports vanished. Puri, Cuttack, Pipili, Konark, all these ports vanished, and these were the northern ports that came up. Now, surprisingly, the British decided around 1850s that there should be a overall of the ports in the northern Orissa, and they decided to make a OCC, Odisha Coastal Canal, joining the channels of the Mahanadi river system, somewhere here, so that the rice and other essential salt particularly could be transported easily without going into the sea. They also decided to make what is called the East Coast Canal now. This canal was actually built, but by the time it was built, the railways had come, and therefore this canal was not used. This was meant to, the East Coast Canal was meant to join the Cuttack with Calcutta by inland waters. So today that canal is there, but part of it is completely silted, part of it is occupied by land builders for housing, and so we don't have a clear-cut East Coast Canal now. Now, as far as the government of India is concerned, they have decided to make the Brahmani Mahanadi river system, particularly joining Dhamra and Paradip with Talche, as the NW5, North National Waterway number 5. National waterway means the development of this waterway would be a central government's responsibility. Further, they have also planned that this National Waterway number 5 would be connected with the East Coast Canal and would be joining Ganga and Brahmaputra in NW1 and NW2. These rivers are now connected to the Bangladesh and Myanmar river systems. So this would give the Orissa connectivity to Bangladesh and Myanmar, the eastern connectivity ring, water ring. But unfortunately, all this has remained in papers only, and hardly any work has been done. So I'll just skip this. I'll go to boats and ships, which is my interest to talk to you today. Can I take another 10 minutes?
Sir, you can take more time than that, sir.
Okay. So I'll skip the modern period because most of it is anyway history. I have mentioned the ports. Now I come to boats and ships, which is the last chapter of my book. We are aware that from very ancient times, maybe 10,000 years ago, the wood blocks, the stems of big trees, the wooden blocks, used to be carved out, and we used to have what is called spoon-shaped canoes in very early times, that is 10,000 years ago or even before. From there till we get a boat inscription somewhere is the Borobudur boat sculpture. Borobudur temple is a World Heritage Site which depicts the seafaring of 8th century AD, perhaps one of the surrender ships from Kalinga to Java. Now, if we go to the, and then I have got the boat sculptures, boat paintings, and literary documents. I'll go over this slide. I'll go to the diagrams. If you look at this, this is how the ancient people, 10,000 years back, people used to move in boats. But if you look at the Borobudur boat, it's quite sophisticated. It has got sails, it has got anchors. If you look at the right-hand side, you will see also an anchor. On the left-hand side, you have the place for the rudder to be put in, and you have these holes here through which you could put oars and drive the ships. So this is the first description of an ancient watercraft, perhaps made to some kind of a imaginary scale. Now, coming to the Odisha sculptures, I have given a number of sculptures here, which one can see. There is a person, perhaps in a dancing pose on a river, and there is another person behind him. This boat, if you look at, this boat has a prominent, as an elephant on top and a prominent bow at this end, and these are the people who are rowing the boat. Same here. There are people here. There is a structure on top where royalty perhaps is sitting, and same here. Now these two diagrams are from these two diagrams are from the Puri Jagannath temple. This diagram is an enlargement of this little figure here. If you look at this, you will see a prominent bow, the oars used for rowing the boat, and people sitting on top. If you come to the next figure, this figure, this is a very interesting figure in Konark temple. You see this animal here with a long neck. It is supposed to be a giraffe. And this is the royalty. A giraffe is being presented to the royalty which is depicted in Konark temple. Now we don't know how this giraffe came here. Whether the Kalinga people traded with Romans and as a return gift a giraffe came, or somebody else traded with the African people and brought a giraffe to the Kalingan king. We don't know. Then there are some diagrams. I have taken these from various museums. Same kind, you can see the structure for royalty here and here, and gentry on this. And here you can see again a large boat with people pushing it into the sea with a very prominent prow or bow. Now, coming to this diagram and this diagram are nearly same, but they're taken from two sources, but they have been reproduced. This diagram is taken from a book called Paika Kheda, written by Kanhai Champati Rai in the 16th century. So this is a diagram from a 16th century manuscript reproduced by two main authors, Sadasiv Rath Sharma and one other person. I'm forgetting the name of the other person. But you can see different types of boats used by Kalinga people at that time. And many of these boats are war boats, boats used for fighting. Only some boats are river boats, particularly these boats. Ganga Prasad, Khaijaga, and Kudipa. These are river boats, and these are fighting boats. Cannot see. There is another boat. Okay. So this is the literature available on boats. This is the most authentic literature I think is available in Odisha today. But other paintings and sculptures I have shown, they do not represent the proper shape of the dimensions of the boats, as you also might have marked. In some boats, one person occupies the entire boat. Single figures dancing on a boat, very unlikely to have happened, perhaps with a depiction of gods in a boat. Heavy animals like elephants on deck, unlikely since this is an unsafe operation. On deck, that is on top of the boat, you can see those sculptures with elephant on top. How could they carry an elephant of such a heavy weight on top of the deck? I don't know. It's so unsafe a practice. All boats are over-propelled. One more interesting factor is the lack of sails in all figures, except one or two. Most of the figures don't have sails. So perhaps the boats used current, as we have discussed before, for their movement to a large extent. Passengers included royalty, crew, and common passengers. Top structures to suit needs, decorated structure for royalty, and low height structures for naval operation. Pronounced and decorative prow, or bow, as we call it today. Presentation of giraffe to royalty. Did Kalinga trade with East Africa? One doesn't know. Then we come to some other literature. There is a book called Yukti Kalpataru, written in Sanskrit by Raja Bhoja of Dara state in Madhya Pradesh in the 11th century, describing shipbuilding in great detail. That's very surprising how a kingdom which was far away from the sea had a king who could write so detailed about shipbuilding. But anyway, since it is there with us, I can discuss a few features of that. He has discussed 5 types of wood. The Brahmana class, light and soft wood. Kshatriya class, light and hard wood. Vaishya class, heavy and soft wood. Shudra class, hard and heavy wood. And mixed class or Dvijati wood, having properties of 2 wood classes. This is not explained any more than this. It is not explained which is heavy, which is soft, etc. So from there, we have deduced the properties of wood that must be used for boat building today. Light wood, boats made of light wood would generally be light, allowing more load to be carried for the same immersion in water. Wood that will normally not crack or split due to impact, that is hard, impact on the bottom or load falling on it. Sometimes in ships you have very heavy load coming suddenly into a portion. So the wood should be such that it should not crack and open up to sea. So it has to be soft or hard, but this is light wood. So one should be light wood along with it strong wood. Easily perishable wood due to immersion in water should not be used. Resistance to deterioration due to marine growth should be the property of wood. Remember that we didn't have this sophisticated paint system at that time. So we used wood that was normally available, but such wood that would not deteriorate much in water. Wood selected for boat building could be anjali, gamari, jackfruit, mango, and sal. Yukti Kalpataru has also given dimensions of many different boats in units of Rajahasta. How much is a Rajahasta? R.K. Mukherjee, the great historian, he has given Rajahasta 16 hastas, but other literature says a Rajahasta is 10 hastas. 1 hasta is 1.5 feet or 18 inches. So there is a controversy, and the dimensions have been given in my book, taken from Yukti Kalpataru. There is no need to give them there, because those dimensions are not existing today, nor can they be translated to today's transport system. Boats that are given are Samanya, that is river boats, Vishesha Dirgha, seagoing vessels but long vessels, Vishesha Unnata, seagoing vessels, but high vessels. Height is more. Some boats have been literature. We don't know why this has been so. Prows decorated with heads of the following symbols: lions, serpents, elephant, tiger, duck, peahen, parrot, frog, or man. Based on superstructure construction, 3 types of vessels have been designated. Sarva Mandira, that is a top structure above the boat for people to stay covering the entire length of the vessel, or Madhya Mandira, which was mainly used for royalty, that is in the middle of the boat, or Agra Mandira, which used to have structures on the front end of the boat. So the 3 types of boats are there: Sarva Mandira, Madhya Mandira, and Agra Mandira. This is also known. Then we had different types of boats. Instead of going through this, I'll go over the. I'll only go over. Okay, I'll go over the whole thing. Bamboo floats or velas. You know what are bamboo floats? Joining bamboos together. Then we had single hull boats, monohull boats. They're called the conventional boats. Or we had twin hull boats called chappers, or in English, catamarans. Boat cross section could be round bottom, V bottom, or chine form, flat bottom, also chine form. 2 types of construction: clinker type, carvel type. I'll show you these diagrams. Joining of planks. You see, when you make a boat out of wood, you just cannot join 2 planks and leave it at that, because there'll be gaps for water to enter. So they must be caulked. Caulking used to be done with alcatra or some kind of a thick paste, which would stop water from entering into the boat. Joining of planks was done by stitching, where ropes were used using coir, hemp, or jute, or using nails. Now, it may seem odd to you that why am I talking of using nails? That is only in modern age. Please remember that in Orissa, the ironworks were very advanced. We have the iron girders in the Konark temple, which have been erected in the mid 13th century, and they have not rusted. They have stayed without any deterioration. So if we could make iron girders, we could also make nails by doing rust-free iron coming out of the oven. And these nails could have been used in boat building. Boat bottom could be bare or clad with copper sheets. Navigational equipments included magnetic compass, binoculars, maps, and palm leaf inscriptions indicating position of sun and moon. Sun and moon position was very important for navigation. Based on that, you could find out where you are. Navigational flags, colors indicating traders from which locality, indicating origin of port, and loading and unloading operation, or carrying of passengers. These 4 types of flags ship used to carry. And ships also had 4 types of crew: cooks, stewards, sailors, and astrologers. Astrologer was a very important part of navigation of Orissa Kalingan trade. Then coming to books and literature available in Orissa, we have Paikakeda. I have already mentioned to you. It describes types of boats, war preparedness, use of steam in using weapons. This is a very interesting item written in Paikakeda. Use of steam for using in weapons, in firing. This is written in the book. It's not guessed. Written in old-time Odia language, I could not understand completely. Book is available in Odisha State Maritime Museum, and it should be deciphered fully. The Atmacharita of Basakobi Fakir Mohan gives a good description of riverboat construction and also a good description of riverboat operation. Very surprising that gentleman has written so detailed description of riverboats. Really very surprising. I have been able to translate his literature into a diagram, which I want to show you. I hope I have got it I'm not quite sure. Anyway, I'll go over these diagrams. This is the bheda. I have mentioned the bamboo strips. And if you have empty drums below, then you can take more weight on top. Bamboo floats in water. So if you have bamboo bhedas and you have put some empty drums below, then you increase the load carrying capacity of the bheda. Then you have the mono hulls, shown here, single hulls, normally used in normal ship operation. And you have two boats joined together, catamarans, chapo. You understand these boats are used in Chandan Jatra. Two hulls joined together on which you can have the gods and a lot of people. Yeah, I have told you about round bottom boats, that is boats which are round in shape, and also V-shaped boats where bottom is V-shaped. It's not round, it's straight. Cross-section wise it is straight. Lengthwise it may be curved. And then an alternative of this is the flat bottom boat, which I'll show you later, that this V, instead of having an angle to the horizontal, it would be flat. You have a flat boat with flat sides inclined. So there are two types of sections of the boats. And now we have two types of construction. One is the carvel type of construction, where the planks are joined next to each other without leaving a distortion on the outside. The other is the clinker type of construction, where one plank of wood is superimposed on another. There is overlap, and therefore the outside is not smooth, but is kind of sawtooth type of outside hull. So both these boards are used. If you have time, you could go back to the diagrams, have a look, and find out some boats have this longitudinal lines marked there, which are clinker type, and those which don't have any marking, they are the carvel type of boats. So this is how boats used to be stitched. They are being used now also. I've taken a present day diagram. These hemp ropes, and they are stitched around. You can see how the top is stitched, how the bottom is stitched, the middle is being stitched. And this is a boat. It's a clinker type of construction with nails. Oh, this is a Fakir Mohan boat. This is a river boat where he has described in so detail. There are wooden pillars at the center of the boat. This one. There were 5 wooden pillars and 4 holes. The wooden pillar, wherever the pillar was, there was a bulkhead made of bamboo strips. Bulkhead means partition made of bamboo strips. And the top was covered with, there was a girder running from end to end on top, this girder. And they used to be covered with bamboo strips. What happened? Okay. There have been a number of palm leaf documents. If you go to Odisha State Museum, Odisha State Maritime Museum, you will find in Odia language some palm leaves describing how the boats are to be constructed, with a note that this has been taken from Arnava Vihar and Ratnakara Vihar in palm leaf. I went around searching for these 2 documents, Arnava Vihar and Ratnakara Vihar, to Odisha, and I found them in Odisha Institution of Maritime and South Asian Studies, Southeast Asian Studies at Bhubaneswar. These 2 documents have a few palm leaf inscriptions being in Sanskrit language, written in old Odia script. The leaves were only partial documents with most of the leaves missing, and these have deteriorated over time due to aging. What do I do with this? I can't understand the old Odia language. I can't understand Sanskrit, old Odia script, I should say. So I took them down to Sanskrit department in Utkal University. I met Dr. Das, who is the head of department, and he gave me a research scholar, Lakshman Maji, who was very helpful to me. He rewrote the entire palm leaf instruction in normal Odia script first, but the language was still Sanskrit. Then I went around asking people to translate it. Some translation was available, not all, and some very elementary documentation was made of this work. And then also I was in trouble because these two documents could not be understood. There are a lot of carpentry words in them, boat building words, which nobody could understand. So I had to decide to go to some carpenters. Carpenters, not normal carpenters. Normal carpenters couldn't tell me. I went to boat building carpenters, boat building skills, people who had boat building skills, where the skill was transferred from generation to generation. And therefore, they are carpenters, boat building carpenters. I went to them, and it was amazing to see that these skilled boat builders, without any education, would reproduce boat structural drawings in various sections in pen and paper. I was really surprised. And this is the diagram they gave me. I have reproduced it, lock, stock, and barrel as they gave me. It's only done in computer. So I'm not going to explain this diagram. Those who are interested can see it in the book, because there are a number of items whose carpentry names are given in a table, and the table is not here. And Arnab Bihar and Ratnakar Bihar, there are a number of diagrams of ships, and I have taken these three typical ships because there are a number of repetition of ship figures. So I've just taken three and reproduced them to show what Ratnakar Bihar and Arnab Bihar contain. Then, after all this was done, we thought, why not look at a boat that is operating at present? See, if I looked at the operation or boat building at present, I could also look at a boat operation at present. And we asked the Chilika Development Authority to give us a boat, a tourist boat. We took a tourist boat and reproduced we measured every item in the boat, every distance, what we call offsets. In naval architectural terms, it's called offsets. We made took the measurements, and we reproduced the drawings using a computer. And you can see the elevation looks like this. If you take the last line, this is the elevation of the boat, and this is the plan of the deck, the outer line. These lines are underneath. And these boats, this is a flat bottom boat. You can see this. I told you I'll show you later. This is a flat bottom boat where bottom is flat and sides are inclined. There is no curve in the sectional view, but there is a curve in the longitudinal view. This and this. So we did this, and I believe that the older boats would not be very different from this. Thank you. I have finished my presentation.
Okay, thank you, sir. It was really a captivating and engrossing talk, especially the concluding portion was really exciting. Sir, before opening the session for open discussion, I would just like to add a few things that came to my mind. I think the riverine transportation system in Odisha is dwindling by the day, because in 1986, I remember as a young man, I had gone as part of the groom's party from my village, which is on banks of Baitarani, to a village, the bride's village, in a boat. So there are about 80 or 100 Barajatri. So that we went in a boat. That also we started in the evening and probably reached at middle of night and came back in the morning. I don't think now it will be possible to have such a Bharati party going by a boat. And since there are bridges all over, and the boat transportation system is not in trend now. So that is what I
right.
to add.
You are right. Just to add to what you have said, we have two major problems with river transport. One is the expansion of rail and road network, which people don't like to travel by water because it's slower. And second one is, as you have rightly said, our rivers have silted, and we don't have a mechanism for ensuring safety of passengers on boats. You mentioned that 80 to 100 people sat on a boat and went for a few kilometers. Did you feel safe? Was there a time when you felt that the boat may sink?
In
It
fact,
could have, because you hear these Bajati parties boats drowning.
Right. So, in fact, in today's after awareness of today, I think it was quite unsafe for our Barjatri team to travel in a boat having absolutely no safety measures. In fact, there was no thought of safety back then. It was in 1986. So I think we should right now open the forum for open discussion from the participants. Preeta madam, could you please switch off the presentation, PowerPoint presentation, and then we can have the interactive session on. Preeta madam, are you listening?
Yes, sir. Can I do the switch off?
Sir, if you can switch off your PowerPoint presentation, then we can invite speakers to add comment or ask questions.
Sir, could you please stop share? Just click the stop share button, then it will be like on the.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Now.
Right. Now, if anybody is interested to ask a question or put any comment, kindly unmute yourself and switch on your camera, and then please raise your hand.
Namaste, sir. Namaskar, sir. पचारुची प्रश्न गोटे सर आपनकर सर जो विषयटा थिला बहुत रिसर्च बेस्ड विषय आमर आमे साधारण ओडिया लोकन पई इट इज टू स्कॉलरली मोर पर्सनल ओपिनियन एटा जे आपण बोट मेकिंग एंड शिप बिल्डिंग एंड मैरीटाइम हिस्ट्री so many things you have combined in your research work. किंतु मु पिला बेल कथा मन पकाउची जंती मु गोटे मु ब्राह्मणी नदी कूलर पिला तेणु ब्राह्मणी नदी कूलर मत पिला बेले छोट थिली आम गाँ को आम तो जाऊलु जे पटामंडी रु ब्राह्मणी नदी क्रॉस करी आम सेपटे गोटे अमृतबणी सिद्धवाली गाँ को जाऊलु तेणु से बोट रे आपण जो डिजाइन देखेले से बोट रे ही आमको केउट पुआ माने पारी कराउथिले तेणु अराउंड 50-60 लोक आम गाँ पारी से डंगारे पारी होतलु गोटे फाड़ सब दिया जाउथला पटा काठ पटा जो से माने साइकिल रखुथिले आ गोटे फाड़ रे आम अधारे बसुथिलु तेणु सेमती पारी होतलु तेणु सेटा गोटे एपिसोड मोर मन पड़ला आज आउ से जिंस नाही तेणु छोट छोट डिंगी थिला जो माने लोक नेकी माछ धरुथिले छोट छोट सेठी का केउट पिला माने तांकर गोटे सेटा पारिवारिक व्यवसाय थिला तेणु सेटा ऑलमोस्ट बंद हो गला तेणु माछ धरिबाटा चली थाई पारे किंतु प्राय आजिकाली जेहेतु ट्रॉलर आसी गला तेणु प्रश्न मोर आ गोटे मोर मामू को कथा भी मन पड़े तेणु से पत्थर व्यवसाय करथुले प्राय गाँ रु 3-4 मास 6 मास धरी से चली जाउथिले डंगारे आ विभिन्न जगह बुली बुली पत्थर व्यापार करी शिल पत्थर पुणी फेरी आसुथिले चाषबास टाइम रे तेणु मु तांको पिला बेले भी देखिची तेणु एमती केते गुडे जिंस जोड़ा हमर बोट सहित जोड़ा हिकी थिला बोट एंड द बिजनेस तेणु ओडिसा जो आमे मैरीटाइम आपण साधा वर्ड यूज कले सेतिर मोर मन पड़ला तेणु जो जो कम्युनिटी आइटम गुडा आपण ना देले सब कम्युनिटी रो ना ता छड़ा भी अन्यान्य बहुत ओडिया लोक जो माने एमती व्यापार करूथिले मु भाबुची प्रति गाँ रे गोटे गोटे केउटो साई थिबो जो माने ए व्यवसाय करूथिबे तेणु से गुडा बहुत जिनस डिटेल आजिकली प्राय विलुप्त अवस्था रे अछि तेणु आमर ट्रॉलर आसीगला मेसीन लागिगला मोटर लागिगला तेणु चिल्कार आम जमी मोटर बोट रे चारिआडे पहुंची जाऊचु आउ लॉन्च अछि आमर बर्तमान जमी आम मैरीटाइम आमर आपण जोटा राइटली कहले मु जेहेतु गुजरात रे अछि वेस्टर्न इंडिया रे आमर एबे रोरो फेरी आरंभ होइछि फेरी सर्विस जोटा 12 घंटा बाई रोड 12-14 घंटा मु सूरत रु आम लोक भावनगर जाउथिले बर्तमान जहाज 2 घंटे 4 घंटे पहुंची आप फेरी आसी पारे तो सेम डे लोक जाइए फेरी आसुँच धंदा कम तेणु ट्रांसपोर्टेशन मीडियम बदलला तेणु से आप रेलिवेंस कौन देखुं ये जो बोट इंडस्ट्री मैरीटाइम इंडस्ट्री
Yeah.
थैंक यू सर
Very good question, but it cannot be answered in 2 minutes. I'll try to say the gist of it. Certain thing you have said is very pertinent, that in olden days, which is not very far, even in your childhood, riverine transport was prominent. You have traveled, your friends have traveled, you have seen people traveling. Today you don't see it. So the riverine transport system has collapsed. That's the first observation which I have made, and you are supporting it. Thank you. Second thing, riverine transport has to be safe. In 21st century, you cannot have unsafe riverine movement. You mentioned about ferry system in Gujarat. Yes, we have read about it, and it is in the prominence. But just imagine, I also went to Gujarat. I traveled in that boat that moved from Dwarka to Bet Dwarka and came back. What an unsafe journey. You just load people like anything and go into the sea and come back. Even if it is half an hour, even if it is 15 minutes. It's so unsafe. In Odisha, we don't have boat rules, safe boat rules. My colleague, I see his name here, Inderveer Solanki. He is now involved in making rules for Odisha boats. And I hope he does a good job. And once the boats are safe, we will not only have normal wooden boats, but we will also have ferries and other things. The rules will be applicable to everybody. But when the rules are not there, one has to be careful about how you move people across water. That is the only thing I can say as a comment to whatever you have said.
Sir, can you ask Mr. Solanki to speak a few words if he's there?
Yeah. Solanki, are you there? Can you unmute yourself? Solanki?
I don't think I see the name here, sir.
No, he's there. He's there. Yeah, he's there.
On my
Oh,
board,
sorry.
it is there. Inderveer Solanki.
Yeah, he's there.
Solanki, are you there? Okay, let's go ahead. We'll call him a little later.
Yeah, he's
Anybody?
responding. Yeah. Solanki,
Solanki, are you there?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
I think there is a question regarding boat rules in Odisha. Can you throw some light?
Yes, sir. We are in the process of drafting the boat rules, including the design and construction rules for boats which are category C type. Actually, the government of India has enacted Inland Vessel Act 2021. Under the Inland Vessel Act 2021, inland vessel rules for design and construction has been also promulgated. They have not been gazetted as yet, but they are likely to be gazetted shortly because the rules were put up on were notified, but not gazetted as yet. So the 1 month of those rules is over. As per those rules, the vessels are categorized into 3 categories: category A, category B, and category C. So category A, the category A vessels, which are vessels that will ply in zone 1, and they are mainly vessels of more than 24 meters in length, carrying more than 50 passengers, and they are decked vessels. So these vessels have to be constructed and maintained as per classification societies like IRS, LR, DNV, etc. For category B vessels, they are to be constructed as per the class requirements, but they can be monitored and by the designated authority, that is the state government. Category C vessels, which are vessels of less than 10 meters in length, the construction rules and the compliance of these rules has to be looked after by the state government. So for that, the rules have been drafted. The first draft has been already submitted to the government. Design and construction rules are in discussion stage, because we are waiting for the construction rules of the central government to be promulgated, because even for category C vessels, there are reference in the central government rules. So once that is notified, so then those specific paragraphs will be incorporated in the rules for government of Odisha, and that these are the first, we can say, first state government that will come out with the rules. No other government has come out with rules under the new act. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, my question to Suresh Mishra, sir. Sir, how do you see the water transport infrastructure of Odisha as of date?
Today, water transport in Odisha is not there, neither in the rivers nor in the ocean. Rivers, some boats moving, but it's not anything substantial. Sea, in Odisha, there is no shipbuilding, no shipping. I believe Odisha must try very hard to make a dent in the shipbuilding sector through inland watercraft construction. Inland watercraft means vessels that will move in rivers, the ones that Dr. Solanki has mentioned. The reason is government funding is now being pumped into Odisha Inland Water System, NW5 and the ECC. I mentioned about integrating NW5 and ECC. I think all our efforts should be tell our state government and our central government that please do whatever is necessary, because I believe a few days back I read in paper that last 12,000 crores or something has been allocated for Odisha Inland NW5 development. So if that is so, then we should, as whatever individuals or bodies, should force the state government and the central government to make this money, make inland water transportation safe, navigable, economically viable, and utilize local labor, skill, and talent in development of this. This is a possibility. It is possible. Today, ocean transport, other states are far ahead of us. I don't know whether we can do it very well, but this is something which is within our capability. We should be able to do it.
Thank you, sir. Any question from anyone? Mr. Danpas, sir?
Yeah, yeah. Can I say something?
Oh, sure, sir.
Yeah. Regarding water transport, in fact, Professor Mishra has already told about the NW5. It's already 1,200 crores have been sanctioned, and it is going to be developed under SPV. That's as a special purpose vehicles with Inland Waterways Authority being the leader, and then Paradip Port, Coal India Limited, and state government. These four will be joining together. It's maybe another a week or two. It is going to be published, and maybe possible, but before the elections, and so something is going to happen. This is the case. But after that, everything depends how the governments and there is a possibility that it is coming up. And regarding the RoRo facilities, whatever earlier the first speaker told about in Gujarat, that is happening in Ghoga and Dahej. Another one is between Mundra and Hazira. And those are meant for the bigger vessels. I mean, the bigger vessels for trucks of 6 to 12 axles carrying containers, even for the heavy loads. then passenger vessels, I mean that two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheelers, all sort of things, and passengers about 200 to 500 passengers. And it is running successfully. And whatever Professor Mishra has told about the battery, that is the smaller vessels. This is not the bigger vessels. There also, I have also traveled. This is very unsafe. This is totally unsafe. And Ro-Ro vessels of the smaller types, IW has already supplied 2 vessels to Odisha government. One is in Chandwali, another one is in Chilka. Chandwali may be because of the problems with the jetty constructions, it has not yet started. Probably maybe after this monsoon is over, it will start between Chandwali to Kalinga, where at least 12 the cars can be transported with 100 passengers. This is possible. And then this Ro-Ro is becoming a very popular everywhere. Under the World Bank, nowadays in West Bengal, 40 vessels are being constructed. And then another 30 vessels will be Ro-Ro types. Similarly, in Brahmaputra River under Assam, Ro-Ro transportation is coming in a very big way, where without the bridge or anything, the vehicles can be transported from one side to another with cargo as well as passengers with their own vehicles, etc. So this is a new trend which is coming up, and this will be safer. And the rules and regulations, whatever Captain Solanki has told, if these things is come up and everybody is implementing in a right spirit, the water transport will be safe, and there is a possibility that again it may revive within a short period.
Good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, we are layperson. Would you please kindly tell us what is that Ro-Ro? What is that?
Roll and roll up.
Okay.
That means, yeah.
Right. Now, quite easy to understand.
Basically, it is wheeled vehicles.
Thank
Wheeled vehicles which will roll into the ship and come out of the ship. There is somebody who has raised the hand, Manisha.
That was a very interesting and informative session. I'm looking forward to read your book. I have 2 questions. My first question is, where can I get more information on the navigational equipments and the navigational flags that was used in the medieval period? And my second concern, it's a concern that since we are talking about these vehicles, these vessels on water systems on the rivers, wouldn't it have a very bad ecological impact on the river ecosystems? Like, is the government also considering that fact?
Okay. First, where did you get the information? I got the information about navigational flags and navigational equipment from a book by Rusikesh Ponda. He has written a novel. It's not a scientific book, it's a novel on Odisha maritime activity in the northern Odisha in the modern period. It's a very detailed book. The details he has given are tremendous. All that could not have been imagined. It must have been true. So it is possible that he has found some literature in his village or somewhere, and that using that he has written the book. I haven't been able to contact him. I understand he is an IAS officer, retired IAS officer. He is somewhere in his village, but I had got no phone number, no address, nothing of him. So I have just got his book, and from the book, I have taken all the information. So you could read his book, and if you can contact him, and he may be able to give you some information regarding old-time navigational flags and navigational equipment. Old-time equipment, I don't think there is. I'm talking about authentic information. All of us can guess, but it's authentic information I'm talking about. And the second question is, what was your second question?
It was more of a concern, like since the plan is to introduce more of these vessels on the rivers, wouldn't it have a bad ecological impact on the ecosystem of the river?
I'll answer that very well. World over, international bodies, national bodies, rural bodies, everybody, understands that river transport is the least economically damaging compared to rail and road. The power consumption per unit of cargo moved, unit of weight moved is the least in the river transport system. So if you are talking about greenhouse effect, GHG effect, then river transport is the safest, least damaging. If you have better engines in shore and in road and rail, we'll have better engines in boats also. That's not a problem. Problem is well, you have to understand that to move 1 ton of item in river, it takes much less power than to move 1 ton of item in road or rail or plane. So therefore, ecologically, if GHG wise, it's very little. Now, coming to river itself, does the boat harm the river? That could be an ecological problem. The answer is no, boats don't harm the river. They don't harm the river. The boats move at a very low speed. The speed is low enough not to create large number of waves and destroy the banks. You can see the boats moving anywhere in any water body. You'll see that though there are waves generated behind the boat, they don't damage the banks. So river-wise, they don't damage. Atmosphere-wise, they're the least damaging. So that's your answer. I don't know if I've satisfied you.
Thank you so much. I'll read more on that. Thank you.
Sir, can I add also here? In fact, for pollution control, Inland Vessel Act has a special chapter on that, and it is very, very strict, and it is based on the IMO, that is International Maritime Regulations. Under that, even a drop of fossil fuel, I mean diesel or petrol, are not supposed to go to the river also or to the sea also. And this is one side. And then second side is regarding the emissions, whatever it is coming, it is becoming so strict that you are to have the modern and how to control that emissions to a minimum, those things are coming up in a big way. You are not supposed to have a fossil fuel of the diesels of high sulfur or high content of nitrogens. All these things are there already. So these pollution controls or pollution measures are strictly followed. There will not be anything. This is one part. And then second part, now government is also giving a lot of emphasis that instead of fossil fuel, you should go for green fuel. I mean the clean fuel. That is solar systems, battery systems, and also these biofuels. Of course, we are not talking about the hydrogens and then CNG, LNG, and other things. So these are coming up in a very big way. Maybe another 20 years, 30 years, you will not find these fossil fuels operated vessels on the rivers or even on the sea also.
Thank you for your input. But I appreciate that these rules exist, but on the ground, how it is being implemented, that is also a very important question. And other thing that I have heard is that the noise from these vessels impact the navigation of these marine animals. So I'm not sure about how that is going to be handled. But I don't want to divert from the original goal of this. So I will go on mute. Thank you for your...
No. I'll still comment on that. That's the important aspect we have raised. Oil engines create a lot of noise. And if we don't have oil engines, we have electric motors, the noise level is much lower. So one solution to your noise problem is immediately change the engines to electric motors, which is being talked about, which is as Mr. Chandra said, is coming in the rules and things like that. So noise problem will automatically be addressed. Okay.
Sir, there is one benchmark index for judging the carbon footprint of any mode of transport. So I don't have any concrete figure. I presume, going by my experience, I presume the specific energy consumption of moving 1 ton of cargo in a boat, compared that to with a road-based transport system would be lower. I hope so. If there
Yes.
are available and
It is lower.
it is
It is lower. I also don't have the figures to give you, but it is lower. Figures are available.
Sir, 1 HP moves 500 kg on water. 1 HP for road, it is only 100 kg. And for rail, it is 200 kg, 300 kgs.
beautiful, beautiful, sir. So
Sir,
that is a lot.
Sir, I would also like to add something to it, just going a little off here, like not in the context of India. I live outside India in the States, and here it's actually a very common thing to see the ro-ros, but especially between islands, like across like the bay or the sea or something. So there are like the boats, they're not even boats, like smaller ships, you can say, where people can actually, like, they're driving the car or something, they can go with the car itself, like they don't even have to get down from the car, and there'll be a dock. Same thing happens in English Channel between UK and France now, like in many parts of the world. And it is a very smooth form of transportation. The sizes of the ship or the larger boats vary. There are passengers who can just go like that as passengers and stand or sit in there are seats, or they can stand. And there are people who can even park their cars or vehicles, and then they can also go up to the docks and sit. So this is a very common mode of transportation. As you said, sir, like especially sometimes water bodies are the nearest point A to point B, channel, like rather than going through the road. So this has been happening all over the many parts of the world already. Thankfully, I'm very glad to hear that now in India also things like that have started happening. And I feel it will be more beneficial for larger rivers, or where rivers are more broader, or other things because of road congestion and all, where people need to travel between 2 points faster. So maybe that's one thing. I'm so glad to hear all this. I was not aware about the developments right now, so it's very heartening. And just one more thing, can I add an anecdote here? Thank you for such an enlightening talk, first of all. Can I add one, just an anecdote related to our riverine navigation and trade? The term Kilapotei, I heard from my father about this. So the Kilapotei word, which we very commonly use now for black money or things like that, it has a very interesting connection with our ancient, this riverine boat trade, which used to happen between village and village or places. So, correct me if I am wrong, or please add on to it if you have more to say. So the anecdote is like when traders used to come and like they will put their boat in dock in the bank of the river, like one kila, the tax used to be collected by whoever the zamindar or the ruler or the chief of that area who maintained those river banks, like where the boats docked. So according to 1 kila, the money had to go to the coffers of the person who was collecting the tax, the ruler. So people, like some of the corrupt officials, found a way to sideline it and take money into their own pockets by not by bypassing that, and they would not take the kila out and put one more kila for one more boat, but they would physically collect the money from the second boat which came, but put the residue in their pocket. So that kila potei,
That's interesting.
Yeah, that I heard from my father, and it makes so much sense because there are idioms and phrases we use day to day life. And he said that, in those days between villages, to travel by road, it was more dangerous because of wild animals or, more forested areas, or even sometimes dacoits and all, or anything, like physical dangers. Even, in fact, riverine transport was considered more safe and fast and reliable. So even to carry the goods and all, everything. So that Kilapotei word, it was very fascinating for me too. So in case you have anything more, please add to it. Thank you. Dhanyavad, sir.
Interesting. As before I forget, I must add that we have a roll on and roll off boat service in Orissa. Not new. It has been running since 1 decade. It is from Jannukoda to Satapada. Even I have traveled by that boat, that ferry service So where you could drive in with your
Two
car.
vehicles can go.
Yeah, and then disembark on the other side at Satapada. So while you are traveling in the boat, you can either sit in your car or come out and then stroll on the deck. And you can also, if you are lucky, you can also watch the dolphins. So we have one more raised hand, Samiranjan Das. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. Samir Babu. Samir Babu ଶୁଣି ପାରୁଛନ୍ତି?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry. Hello.
And kindly make
Hello.
your point.
Sorry. Actually, sir, I was reading somewhere that for making India a developed nation, our transportation costs should reduce, and for that, this inland water system should develop more and more. That Ganga waterway that from Varanasi they have started already. Sir, you told about this Brahmani and Mahanadi connection and all the things. Being expert in that field, what is your viewpoint that after how many years down the line, if the way in which this infrastructure things are going on, it will be having substantial impact, means it will develop to a great extent? After how many years are you foreseeing it actually?
If this question was purely technical, I could answer it. You could have a voting system starting within a year. But this question is not technical. This question involves money and quality.
Quality, yes.
And both of these, I am not in a position to answer.
Like technically, I am asking you.
He mentioned about, Mr. Biswal mentioned about 86. He traveled in a boat. Do you know that I think Mr. Dandapat will support me in this? The government of India had the first DPR. Was it DPR or some sort of a feasibility study report on the Brahmani river system way back in 1986, in which Rights was the consultant, and they gave a report. Dandapat, am I correct? Yes, perhaps gone. Anyway, 1986, I was a consultant to Rights at that time, and there was a report asked by Government of India for Brahmani Mahanadi river system. It is 86 to 23. We are talking about some 30 odd years. And nothing has happened. Today, 1200. Oh, I must apologize. I said 12,000 crores. It's 1,200 crores, which has been allocated to the Brahmani river system.
No, sir. Actually, as a technical person, how do you see that Varanasi to Calcutta system, whether it is successful? How is that going on, sir?
Varanasi to Calcutta ride is a different matter altogether, because it's a wide, all-weather draft river.
Yes.
Water always, and big boats can go in that. When you come down to Mahanadi Brahmani system, these are rain-fed rivers, and the water level fluctuates very wildly between summer and monsoon. There are floods, and the government has done nothing to control the flood waters. Today they are talking about barrages, small barrages, but not before. So really to make this, but still, whatever water is there, for at least 4 months of the year, smaller vessels can operate, provided they are operators and there is financial gain. Who will operate unless there is some profit for him?
Yes, sir.
I think so. Dandapat Babu is also unmuted maybe now. You were asking something to Dandapat Babu, sir. So, Mr. Sir?
No, yeah, I'm.
Is it there? Dandapat,
Yeah. Yes, I'm there. Yeah, that is true, sir. There are a lot of technical issues are also there. I mean, see, as long as there is cargo, there is boats are there, obviously, but without thinking of profit and anything, they will do it. But now the transportation modes, I mean, your road is there, rail is there, trucks and all sort of systems are there. So why should someone switch over to road systems? Unless until you provide a beautiful waterways, I mean the viable waterways, which can make the total transportation cost similar to road or rail, then only it is feasible. So therefore, a lot of issues will come up into these pictures. So government is also now thinking. I mean, recently I just saw it that government has asked Niti Aayog to find out how much cargo can be transferred. I mean, reserve for IWT sectors. If they make such sort of compulsions, then obviously that times without thinking of the cost part of it, it will flourish. And then once it flourishes, then definitely it will come up. I mean, this water transports.
Yes, sir.
Sir, before
Thank you.
like can I also add something here, sir? Not with this, but something related to Mishra sir's slides and when he was for the ancient Kalinga, Sadhavas and all. Can I just put a little perspective for there are some young researchers. I think Manasi was asking earlier something to you. Can I do that, sir?
Please.
Okay, so it's a little different perspective than how we view history or our past or our stories. We have always studied, we have tried to study history from our perspective. We always think what our people have written, what texts or what inscriptions are found in our place to validate or to make it, make a point that, okay, this is our thing. Like we say, okay, Cholas have this, Marathas have this, Pallavas have written this, or, in the northern kingdoms have written this, but Odisha doesn't have many inscriptions or texts and all. So we tend to think that we didn't, like many people think that maybe we didn't have much or only Ashoka's inscription or one inscription of Kharavalla, that's all we know. Now the different take that I have is, while my studies and readings, I found our mentions, like it was a very pleasant surprise to me. I found mentions of Kalinga in other people's stories. And when somebody else talks about us that beautifully, like, we can talk about ourselves and we can, loftily talk about us, we were like this, but when someone else talks about us in a very good light, what more validation, what more great resource that we need. These are our main points to watch now then. So I have found in my readings our mentions in ancient Javanese scripts, like ancient Javanese texts which have been translated into English by Crawford. Then similarly in ancient Burmese scriptures, they have from almost 7th century before Common Era, before Christ, the Kalinga traders used to go to, like that Javanese people say that their first contact with the people from Kalinga. Similarly, Maldivian people have written that their Surya Vansa and their Chandra Vansa was from a Kalinga prince who came. Similarly, the Sinhalese people talk about us. So all these different people across Indian Ocean realm, even Cambodia, like there are hundreds of mentions like that. So when other people are talking about us, saying Kalinga's name, presence, and their contact with Kalinga people, what more can we think of? So this is our main, the resource to go with that. Yes, we were like good with maritime trade and everything. So maybe our newer, younger researchers need to have a little, out of box thinking and go and, study those aspects also, like oceanography, linguistics, like intercultural stuff and their scriptures. For that, we need interdisciplinary studies also, because we cannot be experts in those languages and those cultures. So we need genetic studies, interdisciplinary studies, oceanographies, because sea level also has changed. Like where the sea coast was before, now it's much more different from all these. So these are little points that has what I have found in my few years of whatever I have been doing. So maybe the younger researchers who are into this maybe if they think out of the box and go through all these channels might help us understand more. So that's what I just wanted to put. Thank you, sir.
Excellent, excellent.
Why
Sir,
don't you
it's
send
already
your
20
email
minutes
ID
past.
to me?
Sir, please.
I was telling Preeta should send her email ID to me. I would like to correspond with her.
Sure, sir. Thank you. I will do that. Mr.
Sir, we are already 20 minutes past our closing time. So I would request a speaker who has invited some of his friends to join today's meeting. So kindly, sir, if you wish, you can call your friends to add any comment or question, and then we'll close.
Two of them have been talking, Dandapat and Solanki.
Okay.
And Madhu, do you want to say something? Madhu has gone, I think.
She's
Madhu,
there.
are you there?
She's there.
No, sir, I have not gone. I am there. I'm listening to everything. It was actually very, very interesting session. I mean, so much I learned because I have been to Puri and Konark so many times. Myself, I visited, but never thought about the routes, the way the channeling had been done. So the inland waterways, the way it is progressing, it is amazing. And definitely, as Dondapat sir was also saying, that because of electric propulsion, because of so much of green fuel, it is only going to go up and it is going to be much, much more better. So we all are there. We all are there, and we hope in some way or the other we'll keep adding and trying to make it better. Thank you, sir. It was really, really very nice session. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else wants to say something? I don't think anybody is there. Narayan Mishra, is he there? No, he is not there.
No, he is not there.
Yes, left.
So that's it. Gokan sir will not speak. I know. Gokan sir, are you there?
He is there.
He's there.
Yeah.
Sir, why don't you unmute yourself and speak a sentence?
Yes, I am very much here. What I want to say, I am afraid will upset many of you. The title of your talk was Glorious Heritage, and we are talking about the future. I think that's not fair.
I thought you will come up with that. That's all right, sir. If you recall, sir, in my introduction, I did mention about the reason I have written this book. It is looking at the glorious past and the bleak future. So that's why the questions came up. Perhaps it's not fair as a title of the talk, but it's evident that it will come up. Vishal sir, if there is not somebody else,
One raised hand. Then Sarojini madam, is there anything you want to ask? Please unmute yourself and ask the question or make the point. What?
Hello.
Sarojini madam,
Yeah. Sir, ଶୁଣା ଯାଉଛି କି? ମୋର actually ଦିଟା ଛୋଟ question ଥିଲା। ଗୋଟେ ହେଲା ଆମର ଦୀପାବଳି ବେଳେ ସ୍ପେଶାଲି କଂସାରୀ କାଷ୍ଟରେ ଯୋଉଟା ମେ ବି ମାଇଗ୍ରେଟେଡ୍ ଫ୍ରମ୍ କଣ୍ଟିଲୋ ବୋଇତ ଚିତ୍ର କରିକି ପୂଜା କରା ହୁଏ। ଏଇଟା ମେରାଇନ୍ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସପୋର୍ଟ ସହ ରିଲେଟେଡ୍ କି? ଆଉ ସେକେଣ୍ଡଲି ମୁଁ ଏବେ ମ୍ୟୁନିକରେ ଅଛି। ଜଣଙ୍କ ଘରକୁ ଯାଇଥିଲି 11th କ୍ଲାସରେ ପଢୁଛି। ଆଉ ସେମାନେ 4ଟା କଣ୍ଟ୍ରିର ଫ୍ରାନ୍ସ, ସ୍ପେନ୍, ଅଷ୍ଟ୍ରିଆ ଆଉ ଜର୍ମାନୀର ଛୁଆମାନେ ମିଶିକି ସି ଆର୍ଚିଓଲୋଜି ଉପରେ ରିସର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରୁଛନ୍ତି। ଆମର ସେମିତି ମେରାଇନ୍ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସପୋର୍ଟ ସି ଆର୍ଚିଓଲୋଜି ଉପରେ କିଛି ରିସର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରିବାର ସ୍କୁଲ ଲେଭେଲରେ ଫେସିଲିଟି ଅଛି କି ଆମ ଭାରତରେ?
You want me to respond? First one, I don't know. Maybe you can give me some details, I'll find out.
Okay, sir.
And the second one, I don't know. Normal schooling in India doesn't I don't think anything is there. But there are other schools in India, which are private schools, and different schooling systems are there. Maybe they do something, I'm not aware.
Sir, can I add on? Sir, ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ସରୋଜିନୀ ମ୍ୟାଡାମଙ୍କ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନରେ କାରଣ ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ ପଢିଥିଲି. Can I add on on your behalf, sir?
Please.
Sarojini madam, like I have read in like papers from, I don't remember right now, it was Benudhar Patra sirs or Srila Tripathi sirs or something else, but for sure I have read in papers that yes, and I'm speaking in English because we have non-Odia speakers.
Okay, I can understand.
Yeah. Sorry. So the drawing of like during Deepavali, that it is very, it's not a widespread thing all across Odisha that making the boat design or boat motif as a chitta or whatever, you know, the way it is done that you mentioned. But yes, it is right when you say that, because the Sadhavas, when they returned around the time you know, the Kudurukuni Osand or like Bhadrava and all, they would have already been back home. So with all the riches that they brought from their travels, and the Sadhavas trade, actually the prosperous time of Odisha lasted for centuries. And Sadhavas always, what they made Odisha, like they brought, it is a collective prosperity they brought. It was not just individual prosperity. So the collective prosperity was for the entire society. So apna, if you read the Khudurukuni Osa Bahi also, mane, in that they talk about each house in those areas, how prosperous they were, how the people were dressed, like even the poilis and the sevakas were also richly dressed and prosperous. So during that time, all the good things that they would bring, they would use in all these festivals later on, like new clothes and other things. So that's why, as a remembrance, they would draw that Boita motif. Even during Kartika Muruja, if you see very traditional, like Boita and all those related to our maritime heritage, some motifs are drawn. Similarly, what you are saying, maybe one or two niche castes, not caste as in the Western thing how they depict, but the particular clan of people or caste of people might have kept that heritage alive and might be doing that. So that is very probable, you know. And yes, that maritime heritage link is of course there. Yeah. So thank you.
I was thinking, but not sure. Thanks.
Actually, I must tell you that Madam Prita Raut has made a presentation on soft power of Kalinga across miles and millennia, which is available in our channel. So probably today the things that she was right now telling is covered in that particular talk. So I would advise participants to kindly see that clip also. Prita madam?
Okay.
Thank you, and like I'm not a historian or something. Whatever I read or whatever I listen and curate, I'm trying to present it to the upcoming, you know, the younger generation, so that we can do more. And now with technology, with so many things happening in genetics, in linguistics, in oceanography, in weather, in everything, if interdisciplinary studies could be done, our stories, the entire story of the subcontinent would change, you know. There is so much our Odisha, our Kalinga region has to offer, but nobody has even scratched the surface yet. So that's what I feel. Let's see, let's hope for the best.
So
at least.
We need more erudite scholars like Prita Raut madam. Thank you.
I'm not. I'm just a curious person, that's all. Just curating.
We all are. So should we call it a day? I mean, should we close? It's already 9:30.
Please.
Sir, speaker sir, आपको permission दरकार close करिए पे.
Yes, please go ahead. And before you close, may I thank you and all the participants that have taken part in discussion. It was enlightening for me, and I have come across so many people in the audience who are working in this area. I am very happy to see this. I don't find many people working in this area. And what Prita madam has said about interdisciplinary, many disciplines coming together, I think yeah, that's the need of the hour.
Exactly. So, so that brings us to close of today's session, and it was really very informative, educative, and informative session. And this was made more lively by active participation of many of the participants like Dandapat sir and Prita madam and many others. Thank you for contributing to the ongoing narrative. And thank you all participants, and special thanks to our speaker. So in fact, I was quite apprehensive when I made the call to Suresh Mishra sir asking for giving a presentation. So I'm so happy when he already agreed and kept calling me 2 or 3 times to decide about the modalities of the presentation webinar today. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you. So by tomorrow evening, we are going to upload the recording of this video on YouTube. So I request all the participants to kindly watch it and then spread also the word amongst your circle, especially the younger generation of today who need to know more about our rich heritage of Kalinga. So this was a special session because this addressed a specific segment of Kalinga history where we keep on telling about the maritime activity. But today we had today we got to listen it to from horse's mouth. So from an expert like Dr. Suresh Mishra. Thank you, sir. So thank you all participants. So
Thank you, Mr. Solanki too, for his
I forgot actually. Thank you. So good night, everyone.
Right.